The date is July 24th in the year 2000. My name is Anita Hecht, and I'm interviewing Alice Schacht in Madison, Wisconsin, in the executive boardroom of Meriter Retirement Community, where we have gathered to record some of the stories of her life and family history. So welcome.
Thank you, Anita. I've been asked to get some comments to go with the pictures and the copies of albums that my parents put together from the pictures in boxes that they had collected from the years of their marriage and a little before. It's a story that is told by the pictures and by pieces that older relatives had written in response to their kids saying, "Tell us about your life." And my amazement is they wrote. This was back, 50 years ago, and some of them just had a few years of any kind of education. So that's the wonder. It began in the lives of some unpretentious people scattered back in the years of nation forming before the Industrial Revolution. In the 1880s or so, Bismarck was Chancellor of Prussia, trying to establish it as the German Empire. And, of course, there was a lot of conscription of young men. And the 4 young Schachts that were over there are some of the ones who came. And you'll see that in the family line, in the family setup. There were crude kinds of farming in England and Cornwall and Wales, where people came from. Mines were where Grandpa Temby worked: tin, coal, copper. In the most hideous, unprotected environment. There were no safety things on elevators or bracings for the soil they dug through for the mining. And we're very glad that he didn't stay there. People died quite young from the conditions in those mines.
So the Tembys came from Cornwall.
Cornwall. And life was very hard. Great-grandma Temby came from an area that was called something like Trelawar, which means place of gardens. So she always had pretty plants. They somehow learned how to make those grow. I don't know anything about places that Grandpa's family lived, but he walked. Well, you'll see in his story that he walked so many miles, 7 miles to work, and then how many hundreds down into the mine, and then back up after dark and home again and back the next morning. So it was a truly hard life, and he tells about the time that a huge boulder came down after him as he was going in, and he survived that. It's full of kind of miracles. So it was a time in England when people who asked questions were known as seekers. And they were asking questions of the established church. And this wasn't popular. And they were known as Quakers, Pilgrims, Baptists, Methodists. And they sang of sorrows and hopes and joys of spirit in their homes and gatherings, and they sought respite from this persecution in the colonies of the New World, where, unfortunately, they were quite intolerant of other people's ideas of what freedom is. Well, not specifically intolerant, but some of the churches that did this. This is an attempt to pull together some of the stories of the living and dying of ancestors of some of the Swains, Mungers, Lewises, and Schachts, as they built homes and communities, had and lost children, and sought to more than survive from the land and the way they lived, shared, and worked to build communities together And then they went out, when they married, they went out to where they worked, and they couldn't see each other anymore. And the family had grown very close. So they were desperate for at least once a year times they could get together in those days of horse and buggy and the very early cars, transportation. So the family reunions started then because old ER's 5 kids couldn't stand it, not to see each other.
Just for the record, you're talking about E.R. Swain.
Right.
Elisha
Ransom Swain, who was born, and his story is told, and it's in the table of contents.
Sure.
In the written book.
And Elisha was your great grandfather.
Right. At least that.
So that's a different side. That's actually your mother's father's side, while the Tembys are your mother's side.
Right. Exactly.
And the family reunion started on this Swain side.
On the Swain side, but as they were building community, the Swains started in the community with the grandson of old E.R., bringing his bride down to the area, the People's Township. She taught the first school. Her husband thought she'd be just the person to do that. So she did that.
This is Emma?
This would have been Myra.
Elmira
Lewis Swain.
Okay, got it. Yeah. Married to James Swain.
Yes, right.
Who was the son of Elisha.
Right.
Got it.
After 3 years of that, she kept her promise to her mother in Wisconsin that she would come back and visit. So she and her husband went back to Dane County, where she had been working, and at school teaching, actually, before, and had grown through her youth in Dane County. They both went back there and had their first son where her mother was. 2 years they were there. And our grandpa Ralph was born in Dane County.
In 1869.
Yeah. And curiously, when he came to Bob's and my wedding in 1940, he died in Dane County. This was not intended.
No. But an interesting
circle
on his life.
It's the way there are circles sometimes.
You know, I also read that his younger sister, Delia, at least in the book, it says that she was the first white child born in Dane County.
Yes.
But you're saying that he may have been...
I'm saying that I'll accept that they said that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll let Dave Molinoff say that somebody else was a couple of years sooner. So what we say is that she was the first white child known to them to be born in Dane County. That's true.
Uh-huh. Interesting.
Yeah. I won't fight with Dave on that.
Who, for the record, wrote the sort of definitive history of Madison.
Right. We also put in the records of where these families came from. Some of them go back to the Mayflower. Some of them go back to the Revolution and the Adams family. And John Adams, which is one of them, was second president. But he was, I think it was maybe by a cousin related to our, but anyway, it's that family.
And was this then on the Lewis branch? That's sort of what I got from my reading.
You can look in the back of the book to find us all out. Lots of luck.
For the genealogist.
For the genealogist, you can figure it out just fine. And there are numerous connections to the Revolution and the Mayflower. And more recent arrivals, like the Schachts, trying to get away from that awful conscription that all the young men had to do.
In Prussia.
And these were the most peace-loving men. You know, I've heard about Germans saying, "Ich habe gesagt," that kind of stuff. And these guys, if the children were bad, Grandpa Schacht, this is Grandpa Herman Schacht.
This is Bob's grandfather. Okay.
If the kids were bad, he would, in the worst instance, take them with a hairbrush into the bedroom, and he would brush them down and talk as he brushed. It worked just fine.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that interesting?
But he just was such a gentle guy. Bob's dad, I think, once paddled somebody. But he would say, "I'll tell your mother." And they were just softies, really. They were,
how lovely.
Yeah, these Germans
Nice family.
really were not army people.
Good thing they left.
Yes, I think so too. Okay, so as we go now, it's difficult to knit these together, which is one of the reasons I'm glad Anita is helping us with this, because I can't put it down, sort it out without all these other angles saying, but also this and but also that. But we will try to add things that put things together that will go with the pictures. I suggest anyone doing this get a hold of the Roots in Pioneering book and read it.
That you compiled of all of the different autobiographies and family documents.
And letters from my mother, or from my mother's grandfather, Cooley, Temby, with whom she lived during high school and college. And the difficulties he had when she needed a new coat and a new hat and shoes, and he thought this was an awful lot of things for one girl to need in a short time. He had never lived with a girl graduating from high school before. So very interesting letters, and they're in the appendix of that written document there.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we're turning to the first book of photographs that you've compiled on the Swain, Munger, Schacht families.
Yes. And these were the first book that George and Delia put together from those boxes of photographs, of pictures, it's snapshots.
So your parents put these together?
My parents put these together in those great big black photograph albums, which are now disintegrating. Mm-hmm. So I felt something had to be done before they fell apart. Mm-hmm. So got somebody at a copy place to take sheet by sheet and copy them for the copies you have of them, gang. And that's the best we can do.
Okay.
And Dick has gone the second step, and this will be one sacred document, which is to take all those pictures off of those black pages, where he could, and get them to a photographer to try to bring up the contrast.
Resolution. Okay.
Yeah. So I will put that in the treasure book.
Sounds like a good idea.
With the materials that Anita got for me, that will carefully preserve what Dick has labored to do so thorough a job on. And I just can't imagine how many hours it took to first cut them apart.
Right.
Okay. So it starts out, and this is not in order. I don't know how they got this way, but anyway, here's George and Delia, and that's a good place to begin, right? And George and Delia are at the center of this, and these two people truly loved each other an awful lot. They still did, all their lives, and people would just not believe it. But
how wonderful for you to grow up with parents who...
We'd say, she always talks so nicely to him. And he did to her. He put his arm around her, and she'd sort of pull
And so
away.
where are they in these photographs?
These are Grandpa Temby's house in Ames. She went to his house in Ames.
Ames, Iowa.
Right. When the farmhouse got more than he could handle, he sold it. He sold the farm and the farmhouse.
And you see them sitting by the fireplace, which must have been how they heated their homes.
I don't know. I don't know whether there was a furnace with an open shaft from the furnace that, like Grandma and Grandpa Swain had. But they probably had some other heat in another part of the house. Those old stoves they cooked with that you have in your cookbooks, those who have them. A picture of that stove is on the cover that I sketched, I mean. Okay, now you see...
On the page 2, the second
never
page.
Oh boy. The picnics go right through page 5, and both sides. And picnics aren't just a picnic, you know, they are really events. These people have more darn fun on the picnics. Now just look. There's Delia with her hat on, with her hat off, with her hair blowing. And here's other people, and you know, they didn't keep their hands off each other either.
They were very affectionate.
They were affectionate. The men with the women with the women, and even the men with the men. It was just fun. There's Delia's hair has been down.
Now we're looking at page 2, or page 3, the left side.
Yeah.
How old were your mother and father when they got married? Do you know?
Oh, I think she was only 21. So she would have been less than that. And during this time, we don't see anything about her singing here, but she and George met in the college glee club, and she had the director gave her lessons and changed her from singing alto to what she was, which was a soprano, and she was a soprano soloist after he got through with her or started with her.
So they were both into singing.
Yeah, and
music.
George was a tenor soloist.
And what kind of music did they sing?
Oh, any kind. Well, mostly popular or folk or semi-classical, Stephen Foster.
Now, also for the record, your mother was born in 1894 and your father in 1887.
Yes, she thought he was quite old. Oh, quite. But when she met him...
So he was 7 years older.
Yeah. She was engaged to a farm boy whose heart was a bit broken. And her father was unhappy with her again. Delia lived
because?
Well, that was a nice guy, and he was a farmer.
And George, what was George?
And George was in Ames, Iowa State College, which they went to, was an agricultural home economics school. And he was in agricultural journalism. And Mother was taking home economics and didn't get a chance to finish the course. But some of these pictures will be glimpses of a class scene. But these look like they're all going somewhere. I have no idea where they're going.
And these are all relatives, cousins, and
well, these would be friends at school. Excepting
friends.
on page
3.
This looks like a family reunion to me. But it may be just a gang of students. So you can guess.
Okay.
These people like each other real much, I think. And George and Delia are remarkably restrained there.
On the right side of page 3. Okay, we're moving to page 4.
This is this beautiful Ledges State Park that's geological wonders. It has these rocks and little rivulets that go across the road that you drive through when you go in the park. So I went there as a child, and you know, you could always cool your feet in that cool water, which flowed over the rocks, under the rocks, whatever. And here's somebody got her hair down on page 4
on the right side.
And here's somebody hugging somebody, and there's George.
So they really
giving Delia a drink.
Wonderfully well suited for each other.
Oh, they just enjoyed whatever they did. And I'd like to see some men really do this because they did.
You're looking at a picture in the middle of page 5.
I can't remember what they called it. It was something like frog. They had a frog race or something. So one man is holding the other man's ankles.
And they're walking
and holding his other and crossing his own ankles over that guy's back. So that guy's now they race another pair or two. So they have So Mother and Aunt Daisy were very good friends. This was Grandma Emma's sister. Her sister.
Daisy was Grandma Emma's sister's
daughter, right?
All right.
And Malore. It was Daisy Malore. I'll be saying that name again, because the mother was close to that.
Do you know what Emma's sister's name was?
Yes, it was Eliza.
Eliza. Okay.
I think I said Liza when I was there, but anyway. There's Mother and Daisy in the hammock, and Mother and Daisy with a hug, and I don't know who these other people are. They won't turn around. Anyway, it's an all-day thing when you have a picnic. And they had imaginations. They didn't just go and eat.
What kinds of things? They obviously played some games. The men.
Yeah,
well,
they had these funny things that they'd race, and they'd take shoes and stockings off. That was a project, I suppose.
Now tell me who you think took all these pictures.
Oh, I think Mother and Daddy did. Or Daddy would have taken them, because he had to have a good camera to take pictures of the work he was doing with farmers. So he didn't start out with a Graflex camera, but he got to that.
A Graflex?
A Graflex, Graplex. And you could look in it and see the actual picture you were taking.
So what year do you think these pictures
were? These would all be like 1915.
Before World War I.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Okay.
And, 14, 15,
right.
It's a sort of a short time, but it's an important time. And I don't know who these are. If we see someone with a butterfly net, my father earned his way through school working for a tailor and catching butterflies for an entomologist. So, he liked to see Mother lying down and she had real nice shape.
We're looking at page 6 on the left side. She has a nice shape.
She was very shapely. Yeah, and she's walking down a road. That's how well the roads were finished, folks. And she's sitting on the wall there, and she had beautiful strawberry blonde hair. They would walk miles, like from one town to another, 3 or 4 miles. And Dad could walk further. The shoes, I remember my mother never got shoes to fit, because she had narrow feet, and it was awful, she and her sister. So the shoes didn't fit right. It's very hard to walk when your shoes don't fit. It's very hard. I don't know what my father is doing there, but here he's got this wedding rings, the Watch Hospital sign. He thought that was kind of nice to hint at.
So they weren't married in these pictures yet.
Oh, no.
So we're on the right side of page 6 now.
Yeah. And this is we're on a farm with somebody's animal that they like. A little Shetland pony or something. And here's George looking so wonderful. I think Phyllis put Handsome George down there, and my sister put that in. So here's some more. They're standing on a rock looking pretty. Even after they've had their hair down and all that stuff.
Page 7 now, left
page
side.
7, football. My father loved football, but he was too small to play in college. He couldn't get his weight up, and he was, so he would watch and yell vigorously. I don't think he's in this one, so we won't say he is.
In that big group picture.
In the big group picture. I don't like this. Someone getting the royal bumps. It looks mean to me.
The right side of page 7 has someone getting the royal
bumps. It looks awful.
Bumps? It looks almost like a fraternity trick.
Like a hazing. Yeah. They would do that to celebrate something that I don't know. Anyway, we'll let them. I'm glad they stopped doing it.
All right, on to page 8 on the left side.
Incidentally, West Liberty might be Harold Skeels. He's going to join the family very soon. He became my father's office boy to start with. Here they are waiting at the ledges.
Wading through the water in their long skirts.
In the water. They'd hold them up. Oh, you could really cool off your whole self wading in that cool water. And over here,
On the right
there are
side.
Delia talking with her friends, Delia on the left in the middle, and with hats. Hats were important stuff.
And whose house is that in the middle?
I don't know whose house it is. Never heard. And Mother's walking down a board. Now, sometimes they would have this over a rough place in the road, like a sty or something. But I don't know. Quiet.
Look at that railroad car.
Yeah, that's just, I think that's a streetcar.
Streetcar in Ames?
A streetcar in Ames, yeah, I think so. Or Boone. Could have been in Boone. Boone was the next biggest place. Yeah, and these are friends. This is Delia on the right under the page 8 sign. And down in the left is Sister Aunt Theo.
That's your mother's sister.
Yeah, and she was a pretty girl.
And Theo was older or younger?
She's younger.
She's younger than you.
She's younger, and my mother left home to go to high school. And Aunt Theo did everything around the house that her mother couldn't get done, and her mother worked slowly. So she was gardener, baker, take care of boys when her mother went to help with her sick father. So Aunt Theo was a wonder.
There were 4 children altogether?
Yes.
Delia, Aunt Theo, and then Ronald?
Yeah, and Stephen was the youngest. And in family reunion pictures, I've written his name under there because I never saw him in the pictures until we got some of them brought up.
Because he died?
He died when he was 4. So any place that he's in a reunion cannot be after the summer of 11.
1911?
Yeah.
Do you know what he died of?
Well, his brother told me that he couldn't make Stephen stop eating green apples that day. He just he kept running in and getting another green apple to eat. That wasn't good for him, but that's all this uncle knew, and nobody told him anything, but Stephen got dreadfully ill. It sounds to me like summer complaint or, some vicious diarrhea, which was really common in heat in Iowa with those kids, with little kids that age.
So okay, page 9.
Page 9 is out of place. They aren't married yet, so they're not having babies. So all of these are some years later.
Okay.
After George and Delia were married.
And when you all started to come into the picture.
Yes, and so they won't be having those babies until after page, good grief. Oh, until after page
18.
19.
19?
Oh, wait, 19. Whoops, nope. There, 18, 19, and 20 is wasteland. Cut over land and stuff. It must have had a fire or a terrible storm. Anyway, here they are. They got married, but now we're back to some of these fun pictures. So Daddy could have still taken pictures of Mother on Sunday afternoon.
So page 22 or so.
They wanted page 21 and 2. They're still playing dress up. And it's way out of place. People were not having babies yet because they were not married.
On page 9.
On page 9, they were not married yet, but this is taken from after they were married. And I will identify the people, and pretty soon I will stop identifying them, and you can start recognizing. Down at the bottom on the left-hand corner is Alice. That was the closest to my father's age.
That was your father's sister.
Father's sister, and I'm her namesake.
Right.
And up in the top, and Alice has her baby John. And in whatever picture you've got of her there, she's with John. And then up on the top is Grandma Munger with Alice and John, and I think this is his other grandma. Maybe this is the other, I just don't know for sure. But anyway, down in the right-hand corner is Tom Paris, who was adopted by Clarence and Beth. Beth was Daddy's oldest sister. And Tom was adopted because they weren't having children, and they wanted them so badly. So Tom never turned out to be this chubby. He was a slim guy. Red hair and an Irishman. Anyway, And here's Phyllis.
On the right side of page 9.
Yeah, and she is with George on the under the number of the page.
Now tell me, Phyllis was the oldest?
Phyllis is my older sister.
Born in what year?
Born in 17. And a very difficult time with that. Mother was quite ill. You know, they didn't really have things.
And Phyllis just died recently.
No, Phyllis is living.
Oh, okay.
She couldn't be here for that funeral. This is not for the record. Anyway, she has a bad knee and her heart's not too good, so she's just sort of trying to see what can she get up to.
Mm-hmm.
But Phyllis was an adorable baby. You can see how. And Aunt Ruth is in the top page with son Bill.
And Ruth is
Daddy's youngest sister.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and in the bottom corner, I'm saying I think it's Aunt Theo with Phyllis, but I don't know.
Okay. Page 10.
Back to Iowa State College, the home of the West. They sang it. Iowa State College, the home of the West, and so forth. The band, a building, the football team, a flock of sheep, and a street in Ames.
Page
And
11.
here we are, 11 both pages. No, on the left-hand side is a football team, a couple of them, and these guys look like a track team to me, but I don't know. They look like they're more quick to get up and go than...
Not like football types.
Yeah. Okay, back to reality now. We've got the Temby family. So, get out your identity things with the Temby family. Here's Grandpa Will.
On the right side of page 11.
Yeah. And here's the grandpa in the bottom row in the middle, and Delia on our left. And on his right, I'm not sure. It may be Catherine, or it might be Will. Can't tell you that. You don't have to know. The top is Aunt Hattie, who was always at Grandma's house, always helping with the children. She never married. She was everybody's helper with the kids. This is Grandma Emma and Daisy's mother, Liza. They called her Liza as much as anything. So those were the children.
I'm sorry, I didn't get her name on the left.
Aunt Hattie.
Aunt Hattie.
She made quilts, and I had some of those. I needed to say. Okay, this is a party. Obviously, it must have been a dress-up party because there's a guy with a dress on. You know, they did things like that. It was a terrible experience for the men because they weren't used to the cold air coming up under their skirts. Bob did that, wore his grandma's dress, and he was so cold all evening. Here's Mother at Grandpa Temby's house. So we've got some time mixes here. Okay, now we're leaping over
page 12
to Swain reunions. And this will identify some of the original kids from old ER's family. In the front row is Elmira, who was his daughter-in-law, with Jim in the middle, his oldest son.
Jim, they were married.
Yeah. And John is not here. John is not in many, he's not in many of the pictures. He danced.
John did.
Yeah. And he was visited by the deacons of the church, and he sort of left. And we didn't see him anymore.
Watch out with the microphone.
Excuse me. I forgot.
So John is a sister or a brother of Jim.
John is not here, but this is the other gang.
Okay.
And so John was after James, and then Delia. And this is the woman for whom my mother was named.
I see.
And then here's Joy.
In the background.
Yeah. And the baby is Katie, who was born when great-great-grandpa ER was 50 years old.
Wow. So he had 4 sons?
Yeah.
ER, and then 3?
And 1 daughter.
And 1 daughter.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's just to get them straight. And
right.
You'll see, you can go back and check these guys to identify. Now,
On
here's
the right side of page 12 now.
Now, here's the time when we start. I didn't see Stephen at first, but down in the left-hand corner beside of the older little boy,
You
and
see a
in
little
between
faint.
a girl and this older little boy, is somebody that looks the right age to be Stephen. Mother is here, and she looks younger and hasn't Daddy with her.
That's Delia. Okay.
Yeah, Delia. So Stephen died before they were married, just a couple of years
Before who was married?
before Daddy and Mother were married.
So Stephen was whose
Stephen
son?
was Ralph and Emma's child.
it.
Here's
Okay.
Ralph back here.
Okay.
And here's
In the back row.
Here is I saw Emma a minute ago. Here's Theo, who wasn't prettying herself up as much as she could have. And here's Grandma Emma.
Okay.
Now these are very faint, and they are better in the master book.
Sure.
And that's where I found Stephen, was where the pictures were brought up. It's
And
funny,
this was probably another family reunion.
oh
I
yes,
imagine.
this was a family reunion, but they seem to have organized themselves to the yearly reunions in about 1912, and Bob Jr. has all that information down, and we can sort of see it in the family reunions, but I'm not sure I've got it right. Bottom picture is on the left is Grandpa. Yeah, this is Joy. Joy, and I don't know for sure. This, I think, is...
Nellie, it says.
Yes, I think it's Nellie. And this is Delia. And this is my Grandma Emma, and Katie, and Belle, who was Normie's wife.
Normie?
Normie was Norman. But everyone called him Uncle Normie.
And whose brother was he?
He was Ralph's brother.
Okay.
Okay, here they are. They're usually together in pictures. There's Ralph and there's Normie. Wonderful, man.
All right.
Yeah. And here's the kids of all those people.
There, we're looking at the right picture
Right,
on the
yeah.
right side of page
So
12.
this is the kids
Of all of
the children of Ralph and Harry, mostly. Okay, so I'm not sure about the boys, which
Who is
they
who?
are, because I know that the two oldest, biggest ones were Normie's kids. But here's Uncle Ronald. I recognized him, the next to the left.
That's your mom's brother.
Yeah, that's her older brother. And here's little Stephen, whom we never saw until we got the pictures. Yeah, and behind Mother is Ruth, who helped with a lot of this. She got a lot of the family stuff together. And
Also a sister of Ralph's, right? Ruth?
no, Ruth is the daughter of Ralph's brother Harry.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we'll come to a bunch of that, but it is hard to get them straight at first. This is Aunt Theo, starting to look a little better here, and Una. We don't have a picture yet to identify Ralph's siblings, but this is Una's daughter. And somebody got some cars. I don't know whether these were for the family reunion or whether they should go back to the college campus.
So now we're on page 13 on the left side.
Still with a reunion, and boy, are they having fun. Here's Ralph's siblings. Here's Ralph, the tallest one, and on our right is Normie.
Okay.
And beside of Ralph is Una, whose daughter is on the page before. And here's
Harry,
whose daughter Ruth did so much.
Okay.
And visiting with her was such fun. I didn't start doing it soon enough. But she said, "Oh, Alice, we could just talk for hours. I would so love to have you come more." She's in the middle of two boys up here in the right-hand corner. She said that Delia was known as the golden one. Her hair, and sort of she did the things everybody else wanted to do and stuff. And here are the kids. See, there's a couple of girls, but here's this little guy, Stephen. And we never saw him before.
How interesting to get these pictures then.
Yeah.
And this reunion was also in Iowa.
Yeah, they're all in Iowa because that's where people are. They had to come with horse and buggy or those old cars. those old touring cars.
They valued family a lot.
Oh, it was hard. And when they came, they didn't have bedrooms for everybody. They made beds on the floor and all that kind of stuff.
So it's good. It's well, actually, in these, it seems to be well identified.
Yeah, pretty well identified. But this, Ruth said, this is cousin Ruth, who did so much with the family. She's up here with her dark hair. She said, now that's something Katie would do to get everybody silly like that.
On the upper right side of page 13.
Yeah, and you can see Delia is laughing as hard as I've ever seen her laugh. And her mother is laughing pretty hard, too.
How fun.
And her father he must have said something really to loosen. And here's Aunt Theo. She was feeling bashful but grinning.
We need to keep moving through.
Yeah, so that was an identification page.
Good.
Okay, you can recognize these people. Delia's there, but we don't know. George is here, and the others you can guess.
14.
Home economics class, I think, on page 14. And these, I think, are Ames friends, more Ames pictures.
State College there.
And
page 15 now.
Page 15 is transportation, I guess. Here's George on a pony. I don't know who that is. Here's Mother driving the buggy, Grandpa's horse and buggy, and that's how they went sometimes. I think this is George and Delia on a date in the buggy. So that's how they did. Okay, back to Iowa State College. Pushball, the football stands, the athletic building. Turn the page.
16.
This is Aunt Theo with her friends in high school, I think.
In the middle of the
that school got better, so Aunt Theo could go to that school now. Grandpa knew some nice girls that went
So for women in the family, education was also considered important.
Yes, it was. And Grandpa thought Aunt Theo should go, but he really didn't want his girls exposed to those tough ones.
To those tough ones, what do you mean
that were going to Ogden High School when it was first started. It seemed that he only heard about the tough girls.
And tough girls meaning?
Well, that would mean they danced, they did unseemly things, and maybe got pregnant or before they were married or something.
What did he do for a living, Ralph?
Ralph was a farmer.
He was a farmer.
He helped Grandpa Temby with the farm the early years of their marriage. And then when Grandpa decided sometimes there would be another brother or two of the Tembys helping. And then when Grandpa Temby retired, he decided it would make trouble with the kids if he gave the farm to one of them. And so he sold it. Then he gave some of the money to each of them. And he gave Grandma and Grandpa more money, Ralph and Emma more money, because they had, in the family of the Tembys, there were several children born who were mentally deficient. Aunt Hattie was about a 12-year-old intelligence. Bert was about a 4-year-old, and Hattie and Bert needed to stay with somebody. So he thought that if he gave Emma and Ralph more money, they could buy a bigger farm and house and keep Hattie and Bert, which they were willing to do, but $4,000 was not enough for how much trouble that was. So they always had them there, in with everybody, and Aunt Hattie was a real help. And Bert would shoo the chickens out of the road. We're on page 16 now, and here's Aunt Ruth with the second baby, Richard, and with Grandma Munger, her mother. And here's my father with 2 kittens. And I think it's Aunt Theo picking flowers.
At the bottom right.
Yeah.
Page 17.
Okay, this is the home that Grandpa Temby built twice.
Twice?
Yes. In the story, he had to go out to the gold mine to get money enough to build, to buy a farm and start building a house. And then he had to go back and get more money at the gold mines.
And where did he go to?
He went to the gold mines. It tells that in the story, and it's I don't have it, but it's out like Colorado.
Okay, I think I remember that.
Yeah, and he finished it. I think he was out there 3 times because he had to get money to finish it. It was a very nice house, and then the cyclone took it up. Just picked it
Always
up.
something.
And then he had to go out and work in the gold mine again and have Grandma and the kids divided up with relatives for another year and a half or 2 years.
Wow.
And then he said, we've decided farming is what we want to do. So he went back and built it, and they stayed together the rest of the time.
So page
19.
18.
18, both pages. This little house, I don't know this, but I think it's where Grandma and Grandpa lived on the way to the farm they were buying, the bigger farm. It happened to be the time that Grandpa Temby came to live with them his last days. He was not well and couldn't stay alone anymore. So he and Uncle Ronald bunked in that room. And here's Grandma and Grandpa, and here's Grandpa's first team. It wasn't the match team that I knew. Madge and Rhodey, I remember. They were a chestnut horses. But anyway, I think this is Uncle Ronald. Anyway, here he is with these horses, and his horses always look good. This is the first bull he had, but it isn't the one he stayed with. It takes a long time to build up the farm, so he's doing that. Okay, I don't know what this is.
Page 19.
It's places they like to go to see, the Mississippi.
The Mississippi somewhere.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, 19.
Page 20 is also more.
Now, there were sometimes fires and cyclones, and they would just do this kind of stuff to an area. Tear up the trees and lay them down, and here's some more. We're going through page 20 and 21. Just all
Devastation.
Okay, here we are. And George and Delia, the first, now this is a little out of order, folks, because, oh my. Well, pretty soon we're coming to their marriage, but this was after they were married. That they went up
21.
on page 21. The only job Dad could find with his college education was clearing trees off of a tract of land for $50 a month. And so that's what he's doing. He was willing to do anything. So they lived in modest houses of these sorts on page 21. That first year. And sorry, folks, this is some of those pictures of playing dress up. Yeah. He still liked to have her dress up. Maybe it's after.
And here she is, right? This is your mom.
Yeah, dressed up in his hat and stuff. But this looks like Grandpa Temby's house, so I just think they liked inserting these pictures in between other stuff.
How lovely. They look like they had a fun time.
Oh, they did.
Okay.
And Barry thought she was something else. He always liked to take pictures of her.
23,
there she is with a hat.
page 23.
Hats are important. And this might be at the Ledges, but I'm not sure. This looks like a nice picnic place.
Yeah.
Maybe they discovered a new one. Still some more pictures, folks. And some more. They sewed that tennis ball to that rack, I'm sure, because Mother never hit a tennis ball that way. This she looked very at home doing.
The needlework?
Yeah, well, just sitting in the chair being Grandma.
Being Grandma.
She didn't do that.
We're on
when
page
she was a
24
grandma.
now. Okay.
And this is anybody's guess. It's Ames.
On the right
Iowa
side of
stuff.
page 24.
I think it might be the men's glee club that Dad traveled with. He was a tenor and the treasurer. I think the top might be the Baptist group, because they went to one, I think. Or it might have been the glee club. It was men and women both, but they would have had to have more men than that. So I don't know.
Okay, page 25.
Page 25, more Iowa
State.
And here's two roommates in a small room with cots, and there's a football team, and I don't know who that is, but he looks like a nice guy. This looks like Ames Buildings here.
Right. 26.
That's Ames, streets and houses of Ames, and there's George and his
And
sweat.
what made them settle in Ames?
Grandpa Cooley was there. Grandpa Temby was there, and Mother went to live with Grandpa Temby to go to high school. So she finished 4 years of high school in 3 years. And she couldn't have been very young when she was going, because she was born in 94, and she she went in 1910 when he moved to Ames, so she had to be 16 when she went to live with him. So she finished high school up real quick and taught 2 or 3 quarters of school. This is her first class as a teacher.
On the left side, right side of
On the right side.
Okay.
This looks like a girls' basketball team. I know nothing more. Here's somebody that's dressed up like an Indian, and I don't know more.
27.
Okay, now they finally got married. I really think that's nice after all those babies and stuff. So they really got this a little bit mixed up.
Sure.
After all, they were pretty sick with the flu, have to stay in bed long enough to do all this. It was a garden wedding, and they were under this arch. Do you see that? And it was all dressed up in pink and so forth. And even Grandma has such a pretty dress on. I've seen that in other pictures. And this was Mother's namesake Delia at her wedding. So there's the 2 Delias. Here's Delia and George. And Grandma Munger came. So this is George's mother, who came quite a distance. Those the way transportation was from Winona, Minnesota.
Wow.
It wasn't so far. And here's people at the 4-course lunch that the paper said they had. They served. Okay.
Right
here we
side
are.
of 27.
Second children are coming now. Those first children came after everyone was married.
Sure.
Just wanted you to know that. And I don't know who this is, but it looks awfully much like Alice.
It might just
like
be
Grandma and
you.
Grandpa's chickens. So I am the second kid. This is Richard, Aunt Ruth's second kid.
That's on the left side of the right page of
And
27.
the first child is Bill, so it's first and second there.
Those are Ruth's children.
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know who this is. It might be George Paris. But it isn't labeled, and this might be George Paris. It isn't labeled, but he was a monkey about getting into things, so looking a little dirty was typical, and his mother would have not liked it. This is Grandma Munger.
On the lower right.
Yeah, George's mother, with John, who was Alice's son. Now let's see, do we see Alice again? Oh no, we're back to other people now.
Now on page 28.
28, and this is interesting because this looks, first we have a beekeeper. And then we have Aunt Theo in the garden, and the chickens that look like Grandma Emma's. And there's some people, and this is Aunt Theo and one of her cousins, I think.
On the right bottom.
On the right bottom is on the railroad. It was a favorite place to walk on railroad tracks. Well, you know, at least it was cleared.
Right.
Grandma Munger in Winona, Minnesota is one of the first times we went up there and took a picture of her. And here's Delia walking along the country road.
Okay, page 29 now.
And this is working on the railroad. Interestingly, Bob's grandpa, Raylo, was killed working on a railroad.
Oh,
track.
really?
So that's not him, but it's a kind of job. And I don't know who these are. Children of friends.
Okay.
And,
Page 30.
and 30. Now, this is the house Grandma and Grandpa bought when they were
The
living.
Swains.
The Swains, right. And this is the house we knew as children and came to.
Oh, pretty.
And it is a pretty house with 2 living rooms and 4 or 5 bedrooms.
Is it still standing today?
Yeah, but it doesn't look like that. You know,
Where is it?
Iowa. It's on the Lincoln Highway, near between Boone and Elgin. And this is the barn.
Okay, page 31
Okay,
we
now
know.
Grandpa is building up the herd of cattle and pigs, and this is the bull that he has called Statesman. Okay, here's second kids. This is Richard, Phyllis. Oh, gee, these are Phyllis. No, that must be John. I think we, these are Phyllis
31.
pictures. With
This is
her.
your older sister.
This is a mother's, Delia's sister and her father and so forth.
Page 32 now.
Then this is Uncle Katie giving a speech at the reunion. And these are the boys that came home from the war. He made much about the boys coming home from the war.
Did anyone die in World War I in your family?
Aunt Theo's husband, Ran was one of the boys. I don't know whether his picture, maybe, no, it doesn't look like him. These are the three people left of the old ones for the reunion. But he had health problems after the war, from stomach problems and all that stuff from the gas and the tension, and he was in horrible battles.
What was his name?
Ran. He was
R-A-N?
Elisha Ransom Swain, and he'd beat up anybody that called him that. Here's their first car. Model T open car.
That was page 32. Now we're on 33.
Now we're in Centerville, Iowa. And this is the first Munger house that we have a picture of anyway.
And that's where your parents settled then?
And yeah, Dad got a job. Now his career is taking off. He helped Grandpa for a year. Here's one of those terrible storms they had in the Boone area. So this is after a cyclone.
Page 30. Now we just came to 34.
Yeah.
Okay.
And here's the first picture we have of Aunt Beth's first child getting older. Here's her husband. Aunt Beth was so dreadfully ill after George was born that he is taken a picture of with an aunt and with his father.
And Aunt Beth was whose sister?
That's Daddy's sister.
Okay.
And her appendix burst in labor.
Wow.
And she was just dreadfully ill. It was wonderful. It was a miracle she survived. But she had arthritis all her life, and they think that might have contributed. Here's Aunt Theo and her boyfriend, Ran, and they were so in love.
We're going to stop here with tape 1. The date is